Hello, this is Jel from The Word Made Flesh. Welcome to my summer home. It's a little bit different setup, but I'm spending some time here this summer. Anyway, today the church celebrates the feast of Saint Mary Magdalene. And since I've already addressed the gospel of today, which is the one about Mary Magdalene at the tomb during the resurrection of Jesus, I thought to take up another gospel with Mary, which in the past was quite challenging for me to understand. So I was thinking that if I had trouble understanding, perhaps some of you have a trouble of understanding it as well. So I'm going to share my screen with you, and we're going to read it together, and then we're going to unpack it. So this is Gospel of Luke, chapter 10, verses 38 to 42. As they continued their journey, he entered a village where a woman whose name was Martha welcomed him. She had a sister named Mary who sat beside the Lord at his feet, listening to him speak. Martha, burdened with much serving, came to him and said, "Lord, do you not care that my sister has left me by myself to do the serving? Tell her to help me." The Lord said to her in reply, "Martha, Martha, you are anxious and worried about many things. There is need of only one thing. Mary has chosen the better part, and it will not be taken from her." So that was the reading that was very challenging for me to understand. Well, first of all, we know that service is considered a prayer. And there is time for prayer, and there is time for service prayer. And if there was ever a time for service to be called prayer, this was the time. So what happened here? So why would the Lord reprimand Martha and support Mary? So in order to understand this, we need to dive into the persons of Martha and Mary a little deeper and see what's going on. So Martha and Mary were sisters of Lazarus, and they were a very wealthy, prominent Jewish family. So when it says here in verse 40, Martha burdened with much serving, it doesn't necessarily mean that Martha was running around the kitchen, cutting bread, putting olives in the bowls, cutting cheese, or taking fish off the grill. They had servants. They had many servants. So Martha was basically overseeing that everything that was happening, and it was done perfectly and correctly, and everything appeared just right in the eyes of her guests. And she regarded those guests with much respect and love. So so then where was Mary? So Mary, it says here that Mary sat beside the Lord at his feet, listening to him speak. For a woman in those times, this was unthinkable for her to be sitting by the Lord's feet as a disciple and listening to him speak rather than serve. This was extremely inappropriate, and it could be that exactly that part was that troubled Martha, because it didn't appear appropriate. It didn't look good. So when she addresses the Lord and he responds with, "Martha, Martha, you are anxious and worried about many things," he is telling her that she's concerned with secular things, with worldly things, with people's opinions. That's what he's saying. So let's see this person of Mary. Why would Mary do that? I mean, the decent thing would be to help her sister, to put her at ease. Why would she go out of her way and do something that it's inappropriate, and put her household, her family, in a predicament like that? Why would she be so rebellious to them? And if so, if she was doing all that, why would the Lord support her in it? So let's see if that's the case. So for us to understand that, we need to see Mary for who she was. This is that we're encountering Mary after her conversion. The Lord has cast out of her 7 demons. 7, it's a symbolic number in the scripture, and it means a fullness of something, right? Which means that the Lord has cast out all the demons out of her. All demons out of her. So she encountered the Lord the way he was. She encountered and saw him for who he was. She understood, and her soul recognized its creator. So when the Lord came and approached, Mary was at his feet, like she was just there, and she would listen to him speak. She was listening with the ears of her soul, not her bodily ears. This was bigger than Mary. Mary practically had no choice but to be there. She was shackled by his feet. To be able to understand that a little bit more, those of us who didn't reach that state of holiness and sanctity, we look into the readings and writings about and of the saints, the great saints of the Lord, but non-biblical saints. So, for example, Saint Teresa of Avila, it was said that during the Mass she would levitate. In fact, she would be raised up for like a few feet. It was because she was so holy that when her soul would see the Eucharist, body and blood, soul and divinity of Christ, it would recognize its maker, and it would want to rush to it. So her soul was more powerful than her physical body or her senses. Now, not desiring to make a spectacle of herself, she would tie herself to the chair, and 2 sisters would, during the Mass, would lean on her so that she wouldn't levitate, because it was a public Mass and she didn't want to make a spectacle of herself where people would come and look at her rather than worship the Lord. But the same was said about levitation with Saint Alphonsus Liguori and Saint Francis of Assisi. They were both raised for 4 to 6 feet above the ground when they would be preaching. The same thing happened. Their souls, because it was about the Lord, their souls would be elevated. Now, Mary Magdalene, wasn't levitating or anything like that. However, her senses, her bodily senses, didn't work. She didn't hear her sister. If her sister called her to help, she didn't hear her. She didn't see the Lord with her eyes. She saw the Lord and heard the Lord with the eyes and ears of her soul. And this is why the Lord said, there is need of only one thing. Mary has chosen the better part, and it will not be taken from her. Mary was in ecstasy. She was united with the Lord in her soul. And that's why that's a greater thing than service. She had no choice. That's how holy she was. So anyway, this is my bit of wisdom on this particular chapter. If you like what I said, give me thumbs up, share this video, or subscribe to my channel. Anyway, either way, I shall see you in a little bit. Take care and God bless. Bye now.